I just pressed the Let's Friday and we're waiting for the tubes to connect themselves all across the fruited plain of the internets. Before we go ahead and get started, man, we had a busy week. Oh, hey, that's us. We don't want to play that right now. We had a busy week this week. That's us over on Rumble. What's up, Rumble? All right, so let's kick it off, my friends. It looks like the tubes are working. It's a beautiful Friday. We got business to attend to, so let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney, and today we're talking about Donald Trump and the Colorado removal case. He is inside the Supreme Court right now. We know that they're all making their petitions, and the Supreme Court has accepted the petitions, but Vivek has submitted an amicus brief. And this one's curious because it comes from another contender, comes from somebody else who's running in the primaries, who's also going to be on the primary ballots and so on. We've already talked about here how some of the other GOP candidates like Ron and Nikki, how they basically don't even care about the Democrats trying to remove Trump. And so Vivek is coming out and submitting this amicus brief. We'll read through it and see what he is sending in to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court is going to be hearing and ruling on this stuff soon enough. And it's going to, of course, impact the elections because even though Trump is going to be on the ballot in Colorado, technically, if the Supreme Court rejects this or decides against Trump, all those votes that were counted will all be thrown out. So literally disenfranchised. So we'll talk about all that. We've got clips from Nancy Pelosi, clips from Alina. Kevin O'Leary was on CNN talking about how insane the New York case is. And then we'll hear from Vivek. And we've already heard from Vivek. I think we talked about this on our members only stream this week. But he's explaining what is going to come next. And we've got the Iowa caucuses on Monday. And so there's going to be a lot of horse race jockeying, as it were, all over the place. So we'll hear what Vivek has to say. And, I kind of like this, I don't know about you guys, but I was making this thumbnail this afternoon. And I kind of like this Trump Vivek look, It looks pretty good. I think it looks pretty good. I could kind of see it all over the place. Trump Vivek 2024. I'm just saying, just an idea. So that is what we're going to talk about in the first segment. Then, in Congress, what we have is a letter that went over to the new Fani-Wade duo, the little Lovebirds, who are out there in Georgia, who are not only indicting Trump, but they're also, indicting each other, if you know what I mean. So we're going to go through this because there's new information. Nathan Wade, the special prosecutor from Fani Willis, showed out in public, strapped, baby. Look at that. He's packing heat, man. He walked out of there with a nice looking suit, by the way. And he's walking out and he says, "Don't even think about coming at me. I'm going to protect my honor and the honor of my love." Fani. You got to protect yourself. I'm a Second Amendment guy. I like it. All right, so that's from him. Now, there are new stories. Apparently, Wade didn't tell his ex-wife about any of the big Fani payments that he got into his bank account that came from Fulton County. His wife is named Jocelyn. Looks like a very nice woman. I'm sorry she's going through this. But Wade was just doing the old substitution. You're out, this one's in. It's like, what is going on here? You're out, you're in, the old switcheroo, just like they're probably going to try to do with Joe. But you can't do that, man, especially, you're married. You can't really do that, even if she is the biggest Fani in Georgia. So he didn't tell her about the payments. I went and looked up the divorce case. It's wild. The whole thing is sealed. You can see here, I was digging around this afternoon. I'm like, let me get some of these documents, can I? I could not get them. The whole dang case is sealed, locked down to the tilt. But other people did get it, as we saw before. They sealed the whole thing down, and so new stuff is leaking out, and it's a lot of fun. We've also got the actual letter. Jim Jordan from the Judiciary Committee sent this one into Fani. He says, "You guys are up to no good over there. Why did you bill for 4 hours in a day? Why did Nathan do that? And not even take a pee-pee break, man. You can't bill that way. That's illegal." So Congress wants some answers on this. They also want to know about why they colluded with the January 6th committee, why they were colluding with White House counsel, and so on. And so all this will be coming up here. You can see from this image, Wade looks like he's already irritated with this whole relationship, so you can understand. And then lastly, we're going to take a look at what's happening in Texas, man. There's some wildness happening there. Texas seizes borderland and says, look, if you're going to let an invasion happen on our property, how about we just take control of this whole problem? And so the situation is there in Eagle Pass. Got a couple of reports. Fox News had somebody there reporting from the scene. We'll check in on that. Bill Melugin was sharing a report saying that National Guard restored Border Patrol. Border control. They got control of the border because the Border Patrol has no control. So we'll go through that. And then what happened is DHS, they filed kind of this like little, panicky memorandum to the Supreme Court saying, please, Supreme Court, help us. Look what they're doing. They're stopping us from allowing an invasion into our country in Texas. And we want to continue the invasion. So we'll see what the Supreme Court does about it. The law's, pretty clear that the feds do have control of the borders, but what happens if they are allowing an invasion? Does that mean the states can say you've abdicated your responsibility and it's ours now? I hope so. We'll see. So we got 3 segments, as you can see, my friends, and we're grateful that you are here and with us. I hope you're having a beautiful week. We are rocking our way through 2024, and it has been a busy start. Didn't know that we were going to have a Fani-Wade duo to start the whole year out. This morning, we had a good members chat. We were during our members stream today. We do a members stream in the morning. We do Saturday shows. If you want to join us, become a membo. Watchingthewatchers.locals.com or on YouTube. This one came in from Chris E. This morning as a membo. Thank you, Chris. He says, I'm a graveyard bartender in Vegas, local bar. People want to know facts, so I reference your program all the time. Yeah, Chris, thank you. I just wanted to donate to the cause. Don't really have anything more to say. LOL. Thank you, Chris. Hey, thanks for the nice recommendations out there. And thanks for holding down the fort there in Vegas, my friend. I appreciate you joining the show. Thanks for making the recommendations. And so sorry we missed you this morning, but that was from our AM stream, our AM chat. And so shout out to Chris. Thank you for the dono. If you want to become a membo and join in on those streams, watchingthewatchers.locals.com is the place to go and join us there. We have a lot of fun. And we also have our website, robertgovea.com. You can head on over here. You can see if you sign up for our daily newsletter, you'll get all the segments delivered right to your inbox. So click here, sign up for it. And all of these reports, including the PDFs, everything that we talk about here is going to get summarized and sent to your inbox. And you can literally click the show report and read the PDF because we include them inside. So that is robertgovea.com. Thanks for signing up for the newsletter. And when you get that newsletter, you have our full permission here to forward the newsletter to your entire contact list. Tell them I said you could. Blame me. They can come here, they come to the show and take it up with the subscribe button. But all right, so let's get to it, my friends. We've got some meat and potatoes to attend to, starting with the Supreme Court. Vivek joins Trump as an Amicus Brief filer, saying that Donald Trump should be on the ballot in Colorado in 2024. Some other GOP candidates like Ron and Nikki have said that they don't really care if the Democrats lop off the Republican lead and just install them, because that's the only way they're going to win. And so Vivek came out and submitted a nice amicus brief to the United States Supreme Court. We're liking that. We're going to read through it and see what is inside. Pelosi had a weird statement saying that it's impossible for Trump to be president again. It's like, what do you mean? Why is that? We're going to hear from Alina. She was explaining that this is all rigged, including the New York civil fraud case, since Tishy Latish met with the White House. Kevin O'Leary is supporting this claim, and Vivek is going to explain to us what really is next, what this is all about. Because the Supreme Court, even though it kind of feels like it's a 6-3 court, and what if they come back and they get a little clever with this and something happens? What happens if Trump is not on the ballot? Guess what happens? GOP says, oh, we can't nominate somebody who can't even be on the ballot. Or what if the Supreme Court comes back and says, states' rights or something? And then they say, well, you guys get to decide on your own. They decided, so deal with it, voters. If you don't like it, vote out the secretary. If you don't like it, deal with your judiciary, right? Let it deal with the states. That could be a big problem, because then the Republican Party says, well, that's our excuse. Boom. Trump's got to go. We can't even have a candidate who's not even on the ballot in a couple states here. And it won't just be Colorado and Maine. All right. There'll be dominoes all over the place. Arizona will probably go. Okay. We'll have some psychos here who, just decide, let's file a lawsuit and do this and all the things. And then Arizona is a swing state. So they'll say, well, Trump can't even be on there in Arizona. So we got to go with Nikki Haley and run. You can see where this is going already. So Vivek is not, fortunately, playing that game, and he's speaking out about it. And so we'll go through this and see what he has to say. But here is the actual filing. In the Supreme Court of these United States, you see the cases Donald Trump versus the Anderson litigants. And this is the brief of Vivek Ramaswamy. Shout out in support of Donald Trump, the petitioner. This is the case of the Colorado ballot removal. We know the Colorado Supreme Court, 4 Democrats, already removed Trump. He's still technically printed on the ballot at this moment. But if the Supreme Court finds that they have the right to do that, all of the people who voted for Trump during the primary, when that comes up, literally their votes will be just disenfranchised, thrown in the dumpster. So Vivek is saying this is totally inappropriate. Thankfully, one candidate, at least, is speaking out against the Democrats trying to pick the Republican candidate, which is what this is. And then delete him from the entire election, ultimately. So here is the summary from Vivek. He says, all right, look, Vivek is a Republican candidate for president running against Trump. And as such, Vivek has a unique perspective as a competitor in the Republican presidential primary race. Vivek has satisfied all the constitutional qualifications and also qualified for the Colorado ballot. He's got a profound interest in preserving the right of every voter to cast a ballot for the candidate that best suits his or her preferences, even if that candidate is someone other than Vivek. Which is a nice, refreshing thing to hear. Oh my goodness. You know, we hear from Ron DeSantis, Ron's argument is, well, the Democrats are going to take him out, so vote for me. What? So you're just going to let that go and just let them pick who's next? So here's the summary of the argument. They say from Vivek, the conclusion is inescapable. President Trump's political opponents have sought to disqualify him from the ballot in multiple states because they fear they cannot beat him in a free and fair election. Boom. Now, needless to say, the distress of competing against a formidable opponent called Trump cannot justify disqualification under the 14th Amendment. And the consequences of affirming the Colorado Supreme Court decision to remove Trump, if you do that, Supreme Court, it will extend far beyond the dispute over President Trump's eligibility. Specifically, this court's blessing of Colorado, of their interpretation, it will warp incentives for state decision makers and for voters. For secretaries of state and for state Supreme Court justices, the path to national notoriety will be illuminated. All these judges will be jumping all over themselves, and secretaries of state will be chomping at the bit to enhance, he says, to enhance your credibility among co-partisans. All you got to do, simply concoct a reason to declare a disfavored presidential candidate of the opposing party ineligible to run for office. You just pull a Secretary of State in Maine. Say, wait, I've decided that there was an insurrection here because I read Colorado and I watched the news and MSNBC and Liz Cheney. For voters, the message will also be clear. Scour the records of disfavored candidates for speeches containing martial rhetoric and even policies that had unintended consequences, and then boom, file a removal petition under Section 3. And because it's just partisan hacks that can just decide this in their own state courts, it'll get done. But even if the courts find these consequences unconvincing, you don't care about wrecking the fabric of the country. And ultimately, I think that if the states can start disqualifying Trump, that's basically the end of it. And you can look back to the election of 1860 if you want to see how that went. There are strong textual and structural reasons for rejecting the Colorado Supreme Court's reading because it's idiotic. Most obviously, the phrase officer of the United States, officer, in the context of Section 3 was never understood to include the president, obviously. And the constitutional evidence, combined with the disruptive effects of the disqualification, should lead this Supreme Court to reverse the decision below. Now, here's the argument. They say there is an obvious reason from Vivek, who's writing this, who's running against Trump, by the way. There's an obvious reason why President Trump is the only presidential candidate in American history to face a challenge to his qualification. Democrats fear the potential consequences of Trump's election more than any party has ever feared the victory of an opposing candidate. That is true. This is the break glass in case of emergency section that we've been talking about. They're wrecking everything. They don't care. They'll throw him off ballots like in other countries. If somebody else in another country like Putin throws his opponents off the ballots, they say, I can't believe this. What a dictator over there. And then Joe Biden's like, sorry, you're gone. And they endorse it, right? This is the Democratic Party working this. And we've had a lot of other presidents, and we've had a lot of other oppositional parties, and we've had a lot of other people who've had official acts that are bordering on the outer perimeter, even if you even think that from Trump, which I don't. Giving a speech and investigating a rigged election is within the outer perimeter, obviously. That's the executive branch, is to make sure that the executive functions, right? So that is his sworn responsibility to do that. Now, other presidents have done other things that have been much more criminal and insurrectionary over the last 234 years. But nothing like this has happened before. Why? Because of Trump. There's something about him that they just can't stand. Now, histrionics screeds warning of potential Trumpian dictatorship. They have proliferated in the pages of mainstream publications. That's all they talk about on Joe Scarborough's show. Liz Cheney every day. America's over. And thanks to a deluge of worsening polls, Democrats now lack confidence that they can even beat Trump in a free and fair election. And so now they've resorted to grasping for any tool that might allow them to avoid humiliation by being defeated at the hands of Trump. Now, because the court has never pronounced upon Section 3's meaning, Trump's opponents have sensed an opportunity. Mr. Ramaswamy suggests that this court should refrain from opening the Pandora's box. Indeed, America's faith in the electoral process depends on this court's prudence. Constitutional interpretation isn't supposed to be the art of methodically ignoring what everyone knows to be true. When evaluating this case, the court should first consider the consequences of affirming the decision below. Now, they say here, Your Honor, when there's judicial silence, Trump's political opponents have sensed an opportunity and they've seized upon it, saying although neither the 14th Amendment, the drafters of it, nor this court, the Supreme Court, have addressed whether Section 3 even applies to the presidency, we have these individual private plaintiffs in multiple states. They've already weaponized this. They're already attempting to force Trump off the ballot. Now, the reason for these efforts is obvious. Given Biden's historically low popularity and Trump's consistently strong polling as a candidate, Trump's opponents, they lack confidence in their ability to win. Now, these disqualification efforts are not based on any textualist reading of Section 3. I mean, in other words, you can't extract it from the language. But even if they were, disqualifying the candidate who is now leading in both the primary and the general election polls would be tremendously disruptive, obliterating public confidence in our system. Now, one need not admire President Trump to perceive this matter objectively. Even Professor Lawrence Lessig has written that, in his opinion, the re-election of Trump would be the worst political decision of the nation since the Civil War. Now, yeah, which is because they said the insurrection was the worst attack on America since the Civil War, when they forgot about, 9/11, Pearl Harbor, and the BLM Summer of Love. But, okay. Now, yet he has explained at length why the historical record has convinced him, even this guy, who says he hates Trump. Trump's going to tear this country apart. Remember, they said that about Lincoln, too. Like, literally, we're having 1860 flashbacks. Wild. Yet he has explained at length why the historical record has convinced him that Section 3 doesn't apply. So even Lessig, who is a massive anti-Trumper, is like, meh. He notes, one does not need to like Trump in order to see that the law does not preclude him from being a candidate. Womp, 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 womp. Lessig wrote that over at his Medium page. He wrote that in 2023, last year, December. Obviously. Now, but judging from the available evidence, one apparently does need to dislike Trump to conclude otherwise. They say Mr. Ramaswamy, who's the author of this amicus, has advanced himself as a candidate for the Republican presidential nomination because Vivek believes in the strength and ideas and in his ability to communicate the virtue of his platform to the voters. Now, arguably, the inclusion of a strong competitor on the state primary ballots will make it actually harder for Mr. Ramaswamy to win. But he still opposes these partisan efforts to disqualify Trump because of the effect that it will have on the voters who they are both trying to court. Vigorous political competition ultimately benefits voters more than the candidates permitted to compete for their support. The First Amendment was discussed in this case from 1971 that the Supreme Court wrote in this case called Cohen versus California. Not that Cohen, probably. Says, the First Amendment is designed and intended to remove governmental restraints from the arena of public discussion, putting the decision as to what views shall be voiced largely into the hands of each of us in the hope that to use such freedom will ultimately produce more capable citizenry and a more perfect polity in the belief that no other approach would comport with the premise of individual dignity and choice upon which our political system rests. Now, those who seek to disqualify Trump and other candidates from even appearing on the ballot, they fundamentally distrust the American people. Such a good point. It's insulting to you. Okay, if you want to go vote for somebody, that's called democracy. Okay, you get to go vote. You participate. They're the ones who lecture us all the time about the people getting a say. Well, can we just go vote? Like, again, if we think he's an insurrectionist, we'll vote for someone else, man. But we're too stupid. We don't know better. So they got to censor us, silence our misinformation, and then literally remove the choice that we have as Americans to go cast our vote for the most qualified candidate. They just say, sorry, we're making up something and he cannot be allowed. Now they continue. They say they fear that the voters, if we could evaluate a full range of options, the voters may make the wrong choice because the political elites say so. And so the political elites seek to deprive the voters of the choice entirely. Too stupid. Now, there's a better way, and it's the route that Ramaswamy himself has chosen, saying Trump's opponent should focus on persuading voters that their candidate is the best choice. Just go vote for Biden against the insurrectionists, right? And trust that voters will choose the candidate who best meets the moment. Saying if you allow this decision to stand, Supreme Court, the Colorado Supreme Court decision will lead to opening the door to similar challenges, and more plaintiffs of all political persuasions will gladly accept the invitation. And in the absence of clear guardrails, Section 3 will mean whatever a given state official decides that it means, just like they did. And you can hold a fake hearing over 5 days where a judge just hears evidence from Liz Cheney's totally rigged January 6th committee report, just accepts it as evidence, decides this was due process. And then Maine doesn't even care. Like Maine doesn't even go through that whole, that's a lot of work to have a hearing. 5 days. Shenna Bellows like, I don't even want to know. They already did it in Colorado. That's due process enough for me and my voters. So Trump also goes. It's going to be dominoes like crazy. Now, Section 3 will become a patchwork law whose words will hold different meanings to whatever state decision maker decides is appropriate. Saying the decision below from Colorado makes perverse incentives for state decision makers, whether they're state Supreme Court judges like in Colorado, or whether secretaries like in Maine, Secretary Bellows. Those two states have already removed Trump. And their actions, if they're allowed to stand, more will follow. It will be dominoes. Saying if you, Supreme Court, if you give state officials this new power, they're going to use it. When they do, it's going to be wielded as co-partisan hacks. We've already seen this. The Maine Secretary of State has already gone on CNN and MSNBC, Shenna, and has given a national platform to explain her decision. She's increasing her name recognition and saying she thinks it's right. Although this time we have witnessed the state Supreme Court, composed of Democrat appointees, they vote to disqualify a Republican. That happened in Colorado. Now, they say the hypothetical is not particularly far-fetched. Imagine a 2028 election in which state officials proudly tout their willingness to disqualify disfavored candidates. Right, like Tishy did. Letitia literally ran saying, I'm going to prosecute Trump. So now all secretaries of state can say, I'm going to run to disqualify the MAGA party, whatever. Okay, whoever comes next. They just make it up. Now, it's easy to foresee a world in which candidates use this to curry favor with their other partisans and promote themselves. But it's going to hamstring election officials, and it's going to undermine the entire system. If you allow states to have the final say, says Vivek, on presidential qualifications, a motivated group of partisans, even more than we already have here, are going to file removal challenges. And it's going to have an entirely different meaning in different locations. Saying all these factors show the states are not appropriately equipped to handle this claim and this type of issue. So beyond the perverse effect that this would have on state office holders, because they would all be incentivized to go remove people, this is going to turn into headaches for the court. If Trump's political opponents get him thrown off the ballot, it's going to equate to a clarion call for partisans nationwide. The number of Section 3 challenges are going to proliferate. There's not going to be any limiting principle. Now, while some components of Section 3 lend themselves to easy judicial interpretation, that is not true of every element. To find Trump ineligible under Section 3, Colorado had to determine that, one, Trump engaged in insurrection, first of all, and then given those constraints, Ramaswamy is not going to try to define that phrase, but he does assert that he's only got so much room. He can't just, go blast that into oblivion. He asserts that neither the lower court here nor the secretaries are properly equipped to analyze that phrase either. And so this court demands that if we don't have fair standards, if we don't know how to measure this stuff, then you don't measure it. Right? They don't have permission to do it, so it is not in their jurisdiction, in other words. Here, Article 1 expressly vests Congress with the power to suppress insurrections, and the power to remove disability goes to Congress if someone is impeached. So Congress is the actor. It's not clear what standards a court or any court could use to decide those other questions. They say here, if a former president can be disqualified upon Section 3 on actions taken by his political supporters, could an incumbent president also be disqualified from running for re-election based on the unintended, perhaps violent consequences of an intentional presidential policy? How will the court make those determinations? Ramaswamy understands that each of these examples will strike the court as tenuous or even absurd. That's because they are. But that underscores there are no judicially manageable standards here, which is the point of this case. Now, we have a little history lesson here. They say in 1980, President Carter signed a finding of authority authorizing the covert provision of Soviet occupation sending arms to the Afghan Mujahideen. The Reagan administration continued the Carter program and eventually increased the money to $100 million. Now, after the Soviet military withdrew, guess who came into control? The Taliban. Oh, no kidding. This violent group gained control over the entire country. And the terrorists planned the 9/11 attacks. Then the Taliban refused to hand over Osama, the mastermind. Now imagine the political opponents of President Carter or Reagan. Well, imagine they had filed challenges to their eligibility, saying that each man had deliberately pursued a policy of delivering dangerous weapons to another group of dangerous men. And once they gained the capability, they attacked the United States. which in fact they did. Remember 9/11 that Joe Biden, the Democrats forgot about? January 6th, they forgot about everything, man. In short, the complaint would allege that these administrations had given aid or comfort to the enemies of America. Now, although the long-term effects of this bipartisan policy may not have been clear at the time, the risks are obvious in hindsight. So Reagan gets indicted and removed. Not even indicted, just removed. Some secretary, you're gone. And everybody who was involved. You were involved with that, weren't you? You were part of the Reagan administration. Did you help with that? Oh, you worked in his cabinet, didn't you? Okay, one of those situations. Everybody was involved. And you get another Liz Cheney back then, who's just wrecking the country back then in the 80s. What about President Clinton? On August 11th, 1999, Clinton granted clemency to 16 incarcerated members of the Puerto Rican terrorist group called the Armed Forces of the National Liberation. Now, according to the FBI, this group was responsible for 146 bombings and a reign of terror that resulted in 9 deaths and hundreds of injured victims. Bombs that were linked to the FALN were detonated at FBI headquarters and the federal courthouse in Brooklyn. Wow. Thereby directly targeting the federal government. Now, Clinton claims that the sentences were disproportionate to the crimes, was quickly belied by the Sentencing Commission, which affirmed a pre-existing assessment of all sentences. Yeah, they were involved with terrorist activity. Now, if President Clinton had been eligible to run again, could his historical opponents, political opponents, have tried to remove him? Yeah. It would not have been difficult to marshal evidence saying, hey, these terrorists were dangerous men. The entire federal government opposed Clinton's actions. Why did he do it? The FBI had uncovered evidence that 2 of those on the clemency list, intended an imminent attack at a U.S. military installation right before their arrests. Both chambers of Congress passed measures condemning the commutations by bill, and with this mountain of evidence on their side, Clinton's opponents could have easily said he let these dangerous men go from prison, and it constituted giving aid or comfort to the enemies of the United States. Love that. Yeah. Go after Clinton. Go after everyone. Go after Obama. Vivek says from late 2009 to early 2011, Obama operated ATF. Oh, you remember the Fast and Furious program that was monitoring the weapons that were going to Mexico drug cartels. Essentially, the ATF, long story short, allowed cartel-connected buyers to purchase firearms in the hope the ATF could then trace those weapons back to the cartel leaders and then make arrests. Now, one of those, quote, straw buyers that was monitored but not arrested bought more than 600 of the 2,000 weapons linked to the ring. Now, once again, a federal policy of giving guns to cartels perhaps is giving aid and comfort to the enemy. Why? Because guns that were linked to Fast and Furious straw buyers, they were found at the scene where a Border Patrol agent was killed. So Obama's ATF sold guns to cartel leaders who came back and killed a Border Patrol agent. Interesting. Now, in that instance, the unintended but fatal consequences of the operation were revealed before the president who implemented the policy competed as a candidate for re-election. In other words, maybe a bunch of Republicans could have said, oh, you gave aid and comfort to the enemy. You helped insurrect America. You're removed from the ballot on the 14th. Nicely done. If political opponents, like against Obama, had challenged his eligibility based on Section 3, this court would have to weigh in. Again, the situation would have demanded a judicial determination of whether presidential policy that resulted in the death of a federal agent rose to the level of giving aid or comfort to the enemies. Don't know. Now, to make even the question even less hypothetical and even more contemporarily relevant, let's get to President Biden. Saying President Biden voted for Reagan's request to increase military aid in Pakistan. Oh, that's right. Biden was a senator for a long time who supported a lot of these things that gave aid and comfort to our enemy. He voted to increase military aid to Pakistan, and thereby he facilitated the Mujahideen, the resistance against the Soviets. involved. And he also served as Obama's VP when Operation Fast and Furious was conducted, resulting in a dead Border Patrol agent because they sold guns. So if this court blesses the Colorado Supreme Court and their overly broad reading of the 14th, it could throw both major party nominee processes into disarray. And to be certain, multiple eligibility challenges can and will be lodged against the leading candidates with a rapidly shrinking window within which the court can fully adjudicate those challenges. So Joe Biden voted to fund essentially the Taliban that then led to attacks on America. And he also supported via his vice presidency dead Border Patrol agents. So make no mistake, if the lower court's decision is allowed to stand, says Vivek, these are precisely the kinds of Section 3 challenges that partisan litigants will file. It sounds like a good one. I like that one. Now, Section 3, saying here, there'll be far more chaff than wheat. Courts are not well equipped to evaluate the wisdom of some given presidential policy, particularly when the adverse effects of such policies do not become apparent until after their implementation. Without judicial standards, the best part of this process is that this court should defer to the political process and to the collective wisdom of the American people as expressed through elections. But they do not want that to happen because we don't believe them. They've created a fake narrative and they say, oh, Trump is the worst. He's an insurrectionist. And because the country doesn't buy it, they have to take the decision away. So Vivek continues, saying, the president is not an officer of the United States. Now, even beyond the many prudential concerns as were already outlined above, there are strong reasons in the text why Section 3 doesn't apply to the president. First of all, neither the drafters of the 14th Amendment nor this court have addressed whether the disqualification provision applies. Now, people who love Colorado and the Democrats on that court, they must first contend with the fact that some of the earliest drafts of what became of Section 3 did expressly mention the president. So 14th Amendment version 1 on your Word file, it included the president, but the final version does not. So they talked about it and they deleted it. Representative Samuel McKee of Kentucky, he filed a proposed amendment when they were in session, February 19th, 1866, that would have prohibited any person from qualifying for holding the office of President of the United States, that's the language, draft 1, if they had been or shall hereinafter be engaged in any armed conspiracy or rebellion against the government of the United States. Now, this original draft is a model of textual clarity, inarguably prohibiting any person who had engaged in rebellion or did so in the future, whether they were an office holder or not, from qualifying for president. Now, the scope of the provision, however, narrowed considerably through subsequent revisions because maybe they thought that's not that good of an idea. Because what happens if a government just comes in and says, oh, that's a rebellion. Oh, that's a rebellion. Oh, that's a rebellion. That's an insurrection. That's an insurrection. That's an insurrection. And so the president is now disqualified because Liz Cheney, some hack, decided he committed insurrection. No, the people get to decide. And by the way, if the people decide, it's not an insurrection, right? They've decided that it is the person that we want. We say he is not disqualified. So the scope of the provision went through other revisions. They thought that's not that wise. By the time the final version reached the Senate floor, the only debate over the application of the amendment to the presidency focused on the offices that Section 3 prohibits a disqualified individual from holding. So any office, civil or military, under the United States, rather than which types of office holders are disqualified from holding those offices. One senator questioned why ex-Confederates should not be excluded from the privilege of holding the two highest offices in the gift of the nation, right? They're talking about this. This is all after the Civil War, remember? So why should Jefferson Davis be elected. Like if the country wants him to be elected to the presidency, why? A colleague then called the senator's attention to the words, or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States, implying that those words encompass the president and the vice president. Now, even if one finds the opinion of a single senator on this point convincing, so this senator did think it does apply, which is a dubious prospect given that we are governed by laws and not the intentions of legislatures. So that's like kind of bad law there. Saying here, no senator raised any questions about the meaning of the phrase, an officer of the United States, within the context of Section 3. Now, although 21st century commentators believe that the drafters of the 14th should have been concerned about the prospect of re-electing an insurrectionist president, that does not mean that those working in 1866 devoted any thought to that possibility. Drafters of constitutional amendments are not omniscient. Sometimes the drafters' silence is best explained by the simple fact that no one, not even the amendment's most ardent supporters, suggested the document might have such effect. Now, in this case, one can find scattered examples of non-ratifiers who believe the text applied to the president, but that evidence is no more dispositive than the opinions of the Substack people. So in other words, people were debating it, and they're relying on the stuff that people are debating to say that this guy said this and this guy said this, but he's saying it didn't make the text of the law. Now, what this case requires are examples of framers and ratifiers' testimony sufficient to support the claim of today's consensus understanding, but that body of evidence does not exist. And he goes through, he says, there are other cited examples of this. John Tyler, president, from 1841 to 1845, and John Breckinridge, vice president, 1857 to 1861, both of whom later joined the Confederacy, shed no additional light on whether Section 3 applies to former presidents. Along with their stints in the executive branch, both Tyler and Breckinridge had served several terms in the Senate and the House of Representatives, and as such, they had each taken the Article 6 oath to support the Constitution several times, meaning that Section 3 did not need to be stretched to encompass them. Now, as has been seen elsewhere, the language of Section 3 overlaps with the language of Article 6 oath and affirmation. It does not, however, overlap with the presidential oath in Article 2, Section 1. Therefore, Section 3 unambiguously disqualified Tyler and Breckinridge from further government service without reference to their tenures as vice president or VP president. So in short, Vivek says, proponents of disqualification look to scant evidence. They just pick and choose from the ratification debates, and they see a blank slate on which they can just insert their evidence. But the more reasonable conclusion, says Vivek, is that the drafters of Section 3 did not believe it was possible for a president to engage in insurrection or rebellion against the government that he led. It says, might be less satisfying to modern ears, but it is more consonant with reality. Wow. And now, as Professor Lash's historical research has shown, the concept of the United States electing an insurrectionist president in the immediate aftermath of the Civil War was no more than a punchline to a joke, and that's not realistic enough to even require a constitutional amendment. Saying that the word officer also, by the plain text of it, doesn't include the presidency. Now, the word officer is used 12 times throughout the Constitution. You see it here, listed, blah, blah, bum, boom, boom, all throughout. Now, early 19th century jurists were not confused by the mountain of the one-sided evidence. Justice Story brought this up. Now, at least two of the founding era sources also conflict with this evidence. Both provide a thin reed on which to conclude that officer encompasses the nation's chief executive. Alexander Hamilton said in the Federalist that the president would be an officer elected by the people for 4 years, in a passage that contrasted the limited powers of the presidency about being a perpetual king. Right? That was the point of that Federalist. Now, what the likeliest explanation is he's saying Hamilton was speaking colloquially. Okay, so he was saying officer was just like, he's like an officer. He's a position. It's a person. It's a role. It's an officer, but it's not an officer, capital O. Saying here he was just talking colloquially. Elsewhere in Federalist Papers, they appear to distinguish between the president and other officers. In other words, if you just look at the plain text and the treatises that come before the 14th Amendment, proponents of disqualification are relying on extra textual evidence, stuff outside the text, to support their theory, and that is not appropriate. Saying just go through traditional canons of construction. Just read the text. You'll see it's pretty clear. Break the text down. It lists 4 relevant categories of persons: members of Congress, officers of the United States, members of state legislature, executive, and judicial. The only one of these categories that could possibly encompass the presidency is the officer of the United States, is officers. But to accept that argument, a reader would have to assume the drafters crafted a specific category for Congress while declining to do so for, the presidency, the most powerful position in the constitutional system. Wrong. The drafters of the 14th were plainly aware of a possibility that a former president could support a movement that took up arms against the United States. Indeed, John Tyler had done so a mere 5 years earlier. It would have been a simple matter to expressly list the president for the sake of clarity and just to be certain, but the men who actually drafted the amendment didn't. And because the omission of the president from Section 3 is so glaring, that which is omitted must be intended to have the opposite and contrary treatment. Here, that means the president is treated differently than members of Congress because it's not listed there. Saying other categories are explained as well, but Congress does not hide elephants in mouse holes. This court's precedent teaches that Congress does not alter the fundamental details in vague or ancillary provisions. One might say Congress does not hide elephants in mouse holes. In short, you'd have to extrapolate a lot from this thing. It beggars belief that the drafters of the 14th Amendment, they tried to just insert the presidency into the elephant, which is the elephant, into this little officer phrase. Mr. Ramaswamy's interpretation is much more plausible. And other structural conditions in the Constitution support this interpretation. The full extent of the power of the presidency is set out in Article 2. The executive power shall be vested in a president. The Constitution could not be clearer. One individual, not multiple, is vested with all the executive power. Clear, all of it. Full stop. And they hate this, man. I know it's uncomfortable for them that Trump is going to have all this power again, but it's true. Got to deal with it. Start preparing on the left. Prepare yourselves. And although the president has always enjoyed the power to appoint officers to assist him, he doesn't need to do so. A president could lawfully exercise all executive power by himself without making a single appointment. And since the Constitution was ratified, there have been those who claim that a vigorous executive is inconsistent with the genius of Republican government. But hobbling the executive has been discussed. Madison explained this, saying in Federalist 51, one of the best, that ambition must be made to counteract ambition. One of the most, I would say, prevalent phrases from the Federalist Papers. In no branch is the interest of man more intimately connected with the constitutional rights than in the case of the executive. And so a lot of details there. But Vivek wraps up. He says, the president is not a monarch, but he's not a mere bureaucrat either. Now, although the president may not exercise legislative or judicial authority, he may wield the entirety of the power vested in him within the executive's constitutional sphere. And from 1789 to the present day, today, an energetic executive has been vital to the country. Now, for all these reasons, both those expressed in the text and those implied in the structure of the Constitution, the president is not an officer of the United States. And so for an individual like Trump, who's only taken the presidential oath and no other, this determination ends the inquiry, and we do not need any further analysis. And so Vivek submits this, saying, Supreme Court, for the foregoing reasons, the court should reverse the decision of Colorado and keep Trump on the ballot. Signed here by the team representing Vivek in the Amicus Brief, friend of the court brief, landing at the Supreme Court of the United States from Vivek Ramaswamy, the only other Republican who has any concern in the primary about what the Democrats and the left are doing to Trump. Now, the question is, what is the Supreme Court going to do? Are they going to allow Trump to remain on the ballots? Nancy Pelosi seems like her position is that it's going to be impossible for Trump to win. Why would that be? Here's Nancy.
Individual basis, every single piece that you laid out there pulls quite well. You lay out what the former president has said he wants to do in terms of repealing Obamacare, in terms of being proud of Roe versus Wade being struck down, in terms of more tax cuts along the lines of what you saw in 2017. That also polls much better for Democrats than it would for him. And yet, this is a neck and neck race, and no one feels very comfortable on the Democratic side of things that Donald Trump isn't going to be the next president.
Well, I don't think that nobody feels. I think many of us know that it is impossible for him to be the president again with what he is proposing. Well, because when you're talking about what he's talking about now is more tax cuts for corporate America, taking them down so low to the detriment of our budget and meeting the needs of people. But people have to know. I have said over and over again, President Lincoln said, public sentiment is everything.
Right.
With it, you can accomplish almost anything. Without it.
Yeah, public sentiment, like, you know, being allowed to vote for someone, like we could go express that sentiment through the polls. Public sentiment is showing that people do not like Joe Biden. Yeah.
Practically nothing. But public sentiment has to be informed. People have to know. So we can talk more about what...
we're too stupid. That's right. We have to get more education from Nancy.
He has done, what it means at the kitchen table for people to have lower costs for prescription drugs, lower costs for health care, because it's not just about their good health, it's about their financial health and security as well. And instead of just talking about why aren't they doing more, we are, and we will. And again, the outside, our inside maneuvering to get the job done, the president's vision for our country, his knowledge of the issues, his strategic thinking as a legislator are so important, but so is his emotional connection, the empathy he has for working families in our country. He springs from that background and he understands it and he cares about it. So that's what that you will see. Yeah. And again, the president and millions of people mobilizing outside to get the message out, neighbor to neighbor, friend to friend,
right,
person to person.
Do you wish he was, you know, you make the point about kind of...
Okay, I don't really know what she was saying there. I was kind of more distracted. Does she have like two sets of eyebrows here? Like this is the actual eyebrows, right? This is the actual eyebrow. Is that also an eyebrow here? Like, I know that you have like your eyes can be indented there because like your eyes will go back and be indented. And it might be a shadow. But I don't know that's just a shadow, is it? Is that just a shadow or is that like actual makeup? Like what is, she has two eyebrows. Am I wrong about that? Am I totally like missing something? I have no idea what she said. Honestly, I have no idea what she said, which is fine because she's mostly drunk most of the time anyways. Other than it's impossible for Trump to be the presidency, to be the president. I think they're going to censor us harder, or that's the solution. What is that? What's going on there? Like, it's not shadows, right? That's makeup, I think. Did the person miss her eyebrows? I don't know what's going on. All right, that's from California. All right, so impossible for Trump to be president again. I don't know if they've got some plans. I don't know if she, sat down with John Roberts at the Supreme Court or what's going on. But all right, anyways, hopefully somebody can figure out what's going on with her eyeballs. Here is Alina Abba, who, as you'll notice, doesn't have two sets of eyebrows. Okay, let's listen to her and see what she says. Now, she's talking about the New York case. In New York, Tishy Tish James is aggressively prosecuting Trump, trying to extract over $300 million from his company. And we know that Tishy met with the White House. And so just like the Democrats are trying to throw Trump off the ballot in Colorado with the judges, in Maine, Shenna Bellows, another Democrat trying to throw Trump off. We know the White House met with Letitia James. We know the White House met with Fani Willis. We know Joe Biden has made statements to Merrick Garland, like, I'm upset about Trump. And then he went and prosecuted Trump by appointing deranged Jack Smith, illegally, by the way. So here is Miss Abba, who's out explaining what this all means.
We saw that there was a meeting in August, the month or two right before they filed their complaint. And there was another meeting later in the midst of our litigation on the Attorney General's claim. So that is twice confirmed. I believe there are also reports that she had been at Miss Kamala Harris's home. This is not normal. She is a New York Attorney General.
Kamala Harris's home. Isn't that curious? What are they doing in there? And Letitia, she takes her shoes off, okay, even in the middle of court. And I don't know what that's all about, but, I'm sure that's just not very inviting household to be in.
Voted by the New York constituents. And the only thing they all have in common is the Soros backing. I cannot understand why she would have cause in the middle of a trial to go see the White House and the Biden administration, let alone the top. One of the records said that they met on the front lawn. I can't believe what I'm seeing. I really can't. And I am with you, Sean, reporting with you every day. I am in the weeds, and I still am shocked. They cease to amaze me. This is unbelievable. I thought Georgia was bad, and then today I have to sit in court and get notice that this person has now weaponized her, which we already knew, but now that she's coordinating as well with the Biden administration. What was she there for? Coffee? We don't believe it anymore.
No, not coffee, Alina. She's there palling around with her political pals who want her to take out their opponent. And of course, that's exactly what she's done. So this is Kevin O'Leary, and he showed out on CNN. This is interesting. We're hearing a couple clips here. Yesterday, we had Eli Honig, who was on CNN, saying, yeah, Tish is clearly, a hack, clearly partisan, clearly political, was running her entire campaign on Get Trump. So we have another clip here from Kevin O'Leary, who says the same thing, saying this is normal activity in New York. This is what every real estate individual looking for a loan does.
You've been doing real estate for decades. Does this case strike you as odd?
Well, let's leave out Trump for a minute, and let's leave out politics and just talk about what happens in real estate development anywhere. So if you're a developer and you've got a building on a block anywhere in America and it's worth, let's say, $500 million, and you want to build a building right beside it, you go to the bank and say, this building is worth $500 million. I'd like to borrow a construction finance loan against this asset, and I want you to tell me it's worth $500 million too. And the bank negotiates with you and says, well, no, we think it's worth $400 million. And you fight it out. You're always trying to show your assets in the brightest light with the sunshine you could possibly determine for them. You want them to be worth the very most, because you're only going to get a 40 or 50% loan to value, as it's called. Then you borrow that money. In the case of a $500 million asset, maybe you get $250 million, and you build a new building with a construction finance loan.
Makes sense.
And so that's what this case is all about. And by the way, forget about Trump. Every single real estate developer everywhere on earth does this. They always talk about their asset being worth a lot, and the bank says no. And that's just the way it is. So in this case, when I'm trying to figure out, and I'm not pro or con, or I don't care about the politics, who lost money?
No one.
Nobody. The bank got paid back the construction finance loan, and a new building was built. And if you're going to sue this case and win, you got to sue every real estate developer everywhere. This is all they do. This is what they do all day long, every day.
No, they're not Trump,
so
though.
I don't think this thing will ever survive appeal, regardless of what the fine is. This doesn't even make sense. Now, look, I know Trump's got a lot of problems in other indictments and everything else. But
those are also fake, Kev.
But this, if you're a real estate developer, you're watching this, you're saying, what is this? This is ridiculous.
Yeah, you don't even have to be a real estate developer, okay? We're also saying the same thing. What the heck is this, right? So Kevin O'Leary, now the fact that they brought him on CNN to make that point is kind of nice. Like, wow, that's interesting. Yeah, CNN, what you've been cheerleading for the last several years is now being called out what it is, a partisan attack. That's madness. Now, here's Vivek, who submitted an awesome amicus brief. And so we're going to give him the final word here on the segment, explaining what is coming next. And we know, my friends, this is the last show of the day, of the week, before we get the Iowa caucuses out there. And so Trump is looking far and away like he is going to be winning there. And we'll see how Vivek does. But right, if Vivek has a good showing in Iowa, if Vivek has a good showing in New Hampshire, that might be a good thing for any people who are interested in a prospect of Vivek as the vice presidency. If he could do better than Haley or do better than Ron, that would be a good thing. Might bump him up in the race there. But this is what he said. He says, here's the plot. You narrow this to a two-horse race between Trump and a puppet that they control. Number two, eliminate Trump. SCOTUS can do it. We'll see what happens. Number of different ways for this to go. You could see SCOTUS could defer to the states, say must states' rights, send it back down. Trump is no longer eligible to be on the ballots. RNC boots him out. Supreme Court rejects presidential immunity. Currently, that is at the Court of Appeals in D.C. You work that up to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court rejects that. Says, nope, we're going to let Chutkan stand. Trial comes back on. March 4th trial date. Chutkan puts it right back on place. Trump gets convicted. RNC turns around and says, we can't have a convicted felon. He's been convicted of insurrection. Whatever that is, we get a whole new slew of legal challenges because of the conviction. He's a convicted felon now. So that's going to open up the floodgates. Oh, he was convicted of a January 6th crime. Oh, okay. So then they're going to try to remove him. And so maybe the party says, we've had enough. We don't need to deal with it anymore. So all they got to do is just keep this now. Maybe Nikki and Ron, keep them around. And then all they have to do is trot their puppet into the White House. So Vivek says, next up, Ron DeSantis joins Nikki Haley ticket as the vice president. Ron may not know it yet, but he's not even going to have any say in the matter. Here is Vivek.
Two-horse race between Donald Trump. The system wants to narrow this down to a two-horse race between Donald Trump and a puppet who they can control. And it has become increasingly clear that puppet is not a Democrat. It's not even Gavin Newsom. It's Nikki Haley. It's in our own party. Well, today, one more step in that plot unfolds. Chris Christie drops out. Next up, I'm going to make a prediction. You're actually going to see Ron DeSantis join Nikki Haley's ticket. He's going to be her VP. The whole game, it's hiding in plain sight. Whatever it takes. And this system will stop at nothing. And I mean nothing. To eliminate Donald Trump from contention. It's disgusting. But the same people who have said they're not going to actually take a principled stand against Trump's removal from the ballot. Haley and DeSantis are both in that category. Do the math, people. That's next up. Ron DeSantis is after Iowa. Everybody, including Chris Christie, apparently got a phone call from Ron DeSantis. Panicked was the word that Chris Christie used. This is the way the plot's going. Ron may not know this. Ron DeSantis may not know this, but that's what his donors are going to make him do. That's what's coming next. Ron DeSantis will become Nikki's VP, whether or not Ron knows it. It's not really his choice. He's not the one in charge of that decision. And then the plot continues. We have to open our eyes and not fall into their trap. Our America First agenda cannot end. Our movement cannot end with Donald Trump when they take him out from contention. And if you think this system is going to even let this man get anywhere near the White House, we need to open our eyes. We need to do the right thing for our country. They are selling us the rope today that they're going to use to hang us tomorrow. Do not fall into the trap, people. And that's why I'm here.
All right. Seems plausible to me, my friends. Now, as we've talked about here, it has been wild to watch them shatter everything, break glass in case of emergency. The whole justice system, the whole structure of the country is rapidly changing. And we now have a position where in 2 states, they've already decided that you don't even get to vote for the person who's in charge, number one in that political party. There's not even a choice anymore. So the country is shifting rapidly, very rapidly. So the idea that we wake up and there is something else, Supreme Court says something or something else goes askew, is not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, I know for a long time, there were many people who thought that they were not even going to indict Trump. And the idea that a president would be indicted seemed like insanity. Well, it's now happened 4 times now. And the goalposts are shifting. So Very interesting statement. Very, I'm sure he's hearing a bunch of stuff that he's not telling us about, and he can see behind the curtain, so to speak. So Vivek is out there issuing a warning, and what I think he's doing is good work. I appreciate his voice. I know people have some questions. Where did this guy come from? Why is he so smart? Why is he talking the way he's talking? But the things that he's doing, right? The words mean things. Words have impact and meaning, and he is filing very nice, very substantive briefs to the Supreme Court. And I think he's speaking a lot of truth about what the other side is trying to do. Whether that ultimately comes to fruition, I don't know. I think that a removal of Trump would be, a real fracture that this country would have a lot of difficulty coming back from. But they are willing to do literally anything. I've never seen all of these different shatterings of precedent all coincide around one incident, one individual, one election. It's wild. So I'm concerned that they'll do just about anything, just like Vivek says, and we'll be here to continue to cover it, my friends. And so thank you for joining us as we do. We're going to be covering all the Trump trials, all the Trump cases moving forward. There's going to be a lot to attend to in this new year. And so thanks for joining us. I appreciate you subscribing. Thanks for leaving a like. Thanks for also checking out robertgovea.com. The links are down in the description below. So you can go to our website if you want to read any of the PDFs. They're all there. If you want to sign up for our newsletter, you can do that there. You can also access the mind maps if you want to navigate around this thing. Check it out, robertgovea.com. We'll be looking forward to seeing you right back here on the next one. Now, we're not done yet. We're going to turn our attention over to Georgia because Fani Willis is still in some hot water. Fani Willis and her special prosecutor, Nathan Wade, are now under congressional investigation. Representative Jim Jordan sent a letter over to both of these little lovebirds in Georgia and said, hey, I've got records of your illegal billings. Remember that Nathan Wade was billing 24 hours in a day, not even a single pee-pee break. He's a machine, man. The guy just doesn't stop. But more concerning, in addition to those illegal bills, was the conflict of interest, was the fact that these two might have been involved in a relationship and that Nathan Wade's not really qualified for this position, and he was paid $1 million that then was used by these two to go on cruises, to go on vacations, and to travel around. And we also have issues that apparently they met with the White House counsel, they met with the January 6th committee, they met with everybody prior to even bringing these charges. And so we're going to go through all of it. And we haven't heard much response or reaction from the two lovebirds called Fani-Wade. But then we see that on one of the first outings, Nathan Wade came out packing heat. This photograph was captured by the New York Post. They say Trump prosecutor Nathan Wade steps out armed with a handgun after a bombshell Fani Willis affair allegations. And guess what? Nathan Wade didn't deny the tryst. Oh, here's the photograph. You can see he's packing heat in that cobalt blue suit. Says Nathan Wade, the special prosecutor, did not deny having an affair with his boss, Fani. He was spotted Thursday for the first time since the bombshell allegations came to light earlier in the week. Wade, who appeared to be openly carrying a handgun in case he needs to defend Fani's honor, he refused to respond, but he also didn't issue a denial. Are you and Miss Fani indicting each other? He's like, don't. He gives her the side eye. Oh, gosh. When asked by the Post if he had spent any of the $654,000 that he had earned working on the Trump case to take her on lavish trips, he didn't issue a denial. Now, Willis, of course, is prosecuting Trump and other people. She hired Wade, her alleged secret lover. It's crazy. What kind of a crazy, in criminal law, there's always a possibility that something wild happens. Like, you never know. And so, you have to ask yourself, what is Jenna Ellis thinking right now? She's like, oh gosh, I took this plea deal and I wrote that stupid sentencing letter where I cried about everything, and then I wanted to get Harrison Floyd arrested. And, she's like, really, done a lot in this case. And now she's like, oh gosh, the whole thing was rigged. And we're like, yeah, that's what we've been saying from the beginning. But anyways, so hopefully she's all right. Now, a private attorney was hired to oversee the case in late 2021. Now, this guy, the special prosecutor who's been paid over $1 million, he arrived at his law office outside Atlanta, Georgia, in a brand new silver Audi A8L 4.2 Quattro, baby. Woo! That's a nice ride. Valued at more than $100,000. Man, that Trump prosecution money's good. Around 1:45 p.m. on Thursday, he rolls into the office in the afternoon. Oh my gosh. In his $100,000 car. Here he is, wearing a trendy cobalt suit. He walked away from the luxury car toward his office, declined to comment on the affair. Wade and Campbell Law Firm. Showing up strapped, man. Hey, Mr. Wade, will you answer any questions? No, is what he snapped. No. Moments later, Wade left the building and appeared to be holding a gun in his hand. Oh, man. Now, Georgia is an open carry state, even without a permit, and the Post does not suggest he was involved in any wrongdoing. But he's strapped, man. In case he has to defend Fanny's honor. You never know. So he's carrying that around. The co-prosecutors were accused of having an improper and clandestine relationship. Court filing also alleged that Wade paid for lavish vacations. Now, the DA appears to have solely authorized his compensation. Fanny, which reached almost $700,000, according to the motion and the county records. Woo, that's a nice ride there, Nicholas. Nathan, that's a nice $100,000 Audi, my man. Woo, nice ride. Willis and Wade, called Fani-Wade, they have engaged in a personal relationship, and Wade had filed from his divorce from his wife, Jocelyn. 26 years of marriage. And then this guy runs into one Fanny. He sees one Fanny that catches his eye walking around the halls of Fulton County. He's like, oh, wow. 26 years gone. He filed for divorce the same month he started working with Fanny's office. Just amazing, isn't it? These two working together now. Now, the pair, they share 2 adult children together. The lawyer landed the contract, which started November 1, despite having no experience, 0, in RICO cases. Now, they got some court filings. They say the court filing said that, we already read this. The payment made from Wade was being used as kickbacks. This is Miss Wade, ex, formerly. She's like a very nice lady. Very inappropriate that she would be dragged through all of this corruption from Fanny, who's, I guess, the DA sugar mama, who's paying off the special prosecutor in her sole discretion, and then going on trips, going on cruises. I hope Jocelyn finds a much better relationship for her. Married for 26 years. Now, the DA personally benefited, is what they said, and we want someone to be disqualified, according to Roman's motion. Now, okay, we got a response from the DA's office. Pala V. Bailey, a spokeswoman for Big Fanny, said the DA's office is going to respond to the allegations through appropriate court filings. And I can't wait to read that one. Ugh! It's going to be so fun. So meanwhile, Willis has also been subpoenaed. Fanny got a subpoena to show up to the divorce proceedings. And in a court filing that was obtained by the Post, the process server said he served a subpoena to her office. Jocelyn Wade did not respond to a comment, but her attorney, Jocelyn, her attorney called Andrea, responded. Said that they got an ethical duty to uphold the court's order sealing the record that's currently in place. Now, the attorney, good. Okay, Jocelyn's attorney is going to be filing a motion to unseal the file. Yes. Oh, gosh, I can't wait. Now, our investigation as to Mr. Wade's behavior is independent of any other court case or proceedings, she said. We don't care about the RICO prosecution or Trump. They just care about Jocelyn. Now, we as a good lawyer should. Now, we expect that all questions will be raised and addressed in court. It says our singular focus is on Miss Wade and helping her enter a peaceful new chapter in her life. And I hope she does. This is outrageous. what he's done to her. It is like no joke. Married for 26 years, you get a new contract with Big Fanny, and suddenly you're like, see ya, sister, I'm out of here. It's absolutely absurd. So long, honey. Sorry, nice marriage to you. All right, now, Wade, apparently, some of this, he didn't tell his ex-wife about the payments. And I was trying to dig into this on the court filings, and I could not get access to anything. Okay, the entire case was sealed. And let me see if I have this other screenshot from this morning when I was clipping some of this stuff. Yes, I do. Okay, so this is what the actual docket looks like on the court. Okay, so when I scroll over there, when I go to the court docket, I just took a screenshot of this. You can see this is the divorce. Okay, this is Nathan Wade versus Jocelyn Wade. And this is taking place in Cobb County in Georgia. So I was able to go over there, and you can see all the records here. So starting back in August, order to grant a motion, no motions on discovery, motion for attorney's fees, motion for leave, notice of discovery, another motion, an affidavit got filed on January 9th. So there's a bunch of activity. Now, your boy was trying to dig in on this. And I'm like, okay, this is some juicy meatballs here. So we really want to see inside. So the problem is when I click on anything, and I basically clicked on everything today, this is what you get. This is what pops up on the screen. So they've actually just put one image, replaced everything with this. It says document is under seal per order of the court, February 10th, 2022 dated. So that's what you get. Now, it sounds like somebody already got this stuff or some of this stuff before February 10th. And I'm presuming that Mr. Roman's attorney has some of that. So it's going to be curious to see what is inside when we ultimately get there. But man, it is sealed to the brim. There's nothing that you can get in there. Now, here are some more details on what happened. The wife of the Fulton County special prosecutor says he took money and didn't tell her about it. Fulton County special prosecutor allegedly did not disclose payments that he got from the Trump prosecutions working on the racketeering case. Didn't tell anyone about it. Leaving his ex without financial support throughout their divorce proceedings. Daily Caller got info about this. So now she wants to subpoena and talk to Fannie about this. Oh my gosh. So Wade, who was appointed to work on Trump's case, allegedly romantically involved, Wade's wife alleges he has continued to draw from her bank account, leaving it routinely overdrawn despite the clear inequity in financial circumstances. Wife's being hung out to dry. His wife has been a stay-at-home mom for 20 years and relied on Wade for support during the course of the marriage. So he's just out of there, chasing Big Fanny down the halls of Fulton County. Now, Willis was subpoenaed. Wade filed for divorce back November 2nd, literally the day after his contract with Willis began. It's crazy, man. It's brutal. He had his divorce case sealed on February 10th, according to a filing. Marjorie Taylor Greene wants criminal charges brought. Now, no hard evidence in the motion. Yeah, they say that, but I think the attorney probably has some hard evidence if she's making the allegations. Sources close to both the special prosecutor and the DA confirmed their ongoing relationship. So it is getting spicy over there in Fulton County, and Congress has some questions about this because remember that Wade also billed Fannie for meeting with the January 6th committee, meeting with the White House counsel, and billed 24 hours in a full day. So Congress wants to know what's going on here. And they sent a letter. So Jim Jordan sent this over to Fani Willis, the biggest Fannie in Georgia because she's Fulton County DA. January 12th, from the Committee on the Judiciary over to Nathan Wade and to Nathan Wade's law firm, the special prosecutor, very special, to Fani Willis prosecuting Donald Trump. This letter comes from Jim Jordan, chairman of the Judiciary Committee, saying, "Dear Mr. Wade," Congress speaking, says the Committee on the Judiciary continues to conduct oversight of politically motivated prosecutions by people like you. Based on recent reports, we believe that you, Nathan, possess documents and information about the coordination of the Fulton County Fani's prosecution, and we have questions about the potential misuse of federal funds. Accordingly, we ask that you cooperate with us now, Nathan. On August 14th, with your assistance, Fulton County DA indicted a former president of the United States and a current candidate for that office. Now, according to a recent filing in that case, Nathan Wade, you have been paid more than $650,000 at the rate of an hour of $250 per hour to be an attorney consultant, and then later the special assistant district attorney. This is in an unprecedented investigation and the prosecution of a former president. Now, the filing also alleges that while you received this substantial amount of money, $650,000, you also spent extravagantly on lavish vacations with your boss, Miss Willis, Fani. Now, although Miss Willis has so far refused to cooperate with our oversight of her office, invoices that you submitted, Nathan, for payment by Big Fani and made public as part of this court filing, they highlight this collusion. Now, new information appears to substantiate our concerns that Miss Willis's politicized prosecution is here, including the decision to convene a special purpose grand jury. We know that it was aided by partisan Democrats in Washington, D.C. None of it is legitimate. For example, Nathan, in April 2022, you billed for 24 hours of a team meeting. You also included a conference with January 6 research, legal issues to prep an interview. You put that from April 18th to April 22nd. 24 hours of a team meeting and a conference call with the January 6, whatever that is, with Jan 6. Who are they conferencing with? Liz Cheney? Pencil neck Schiff? In May 2022, you, Nathan, you billed for 8 hours for this entry. Traveled to Athens for a conference with the White House Counsel, May 23, 2022. And remember that the indictment was in 2023. In that same invoice, you billed for another $2,000 for 8 hours of a team meeting, also with a conference with the January 6, whatever that is. What could that be? I wonder. SPGJ witness prep, May 31st. In September 2022, you also billed for another 24 hours, witness interviews, conference call, DC, team meeting, September 7th to the 9th. November, another one, 8 hours for January 6th meeting and attorney conference. And in that same invoice, you billed for another $2,000 for 8 hours with an interview with the DC and the White House. Wow, that's a lot of collusion there. 6 different entries, all colluding between Fani and the J6 committee. Now, they say Fani's office reportedly compensated you, Nathan, using a concoction of commingled funds, including monies confiscated or seized by Fani and money directed from the general fund, wherever that came from. Now, the committee has information that Fani received $14 million from the DOJ in the form of a grant. That's federal government money between 2020 and 2023. And given the enormous legal fees that you've billed to Fani, there are open questions about whether federal funds were used by Fannie to finance your prosecution. In fact, on one day, Nathan, on one day, you worked all day and all night without a single break on a politically motivated prosecution, and you billed taxpayers for 24 hours of legal work, which is just amazing. This dude's like really good. Now, a recent news report corroborates your coordination with partisan Democrats, explaining, and we read this previously, that the Fannie staff quietly met with partisan J6 committee, which allowed you to review information that they had gathered. Politico reported that the partisan January 6 committee provided Miss Willis and her prosecution a boost. Just copied all of her homework. Here you go, Fannie. As she prepared to convene a special grand jury and even helped prosecutors prepare for interviews with key witnesses. That's interesting. So none of their independents, and remember Fannie said this multiple times, I didn't talk to anybody over there. Nope, didn't talk to anybody. I did it all on my own. Georgia, I'm Georgia, Fulton County, I don't need any Jack Smith help. No, not true. They met with them repeatedly. The same article suggests that the J6 committee provided you with access to records it withheld from other law enforcement entities and even other members of Congress. So why'd they give it to Fannie? Look at all these meetings. Team interview, meeting prep, 8 hours. Interviews with meetings. Discovery. J6 meeting and attorney conference right there. Interview with the DC White House. Witness interviews, SPG. Okay to pay. Please note this invoice covers November 22nd, 2022. A lot of money, $25,000. And that's just one entry, man. And so he says here that he's got more detailed billing invoices. We'll see. We'll see. Congress is demanding answers. Now, the committee has serious concerns about the degree of improper coordination among politicized actors, including the Biden White House, to investigate and prosecute Trump. This new information released recently only reinforces the committee's concerns that these are politically motivated prosecutions. And to advance our oversight, we ask that you, Nathan, please provide the following documents and information. Back to Congress. 1, all documents and communications between your office and Fulton County, including all documents and communications related to Jack Smith. All documents about your conversations with the White House and White House counsel. We want to know whether you talked to the January 6th Select Committee that's illegally constituted. We want all memo and memoranda. We want all documents and notes related to your meetings, phone calls, conferences with the DOJ, the Executive Office of the Presidency, and the other partisan J6 Select Committee. We also would like copies of all invoices, all credit card statements, all reimbursement requests, everything that was submitted by you or your law partners over to Fulton County. We'd also like a copy of all the contracts and the financial arrangements between your office and Big Fannie that relate to Trump. Please give us all these documents, Nathan, no later than January 26 at 10 a.m. Sincerely, your friend, Jim Jordan, chairman of the Judiciary Committee, going over to Fannie, and actually this one's only going to Nathan Wade. But he's going to go right over to Fannie's office and say, babe, we're busted. And they're going to have to figure out what to do about this. It's probably going to be a difficult dinner conversation tonight. I wonder what they're going to have for dinner tonight. I don't know. Hopefully, they have an appetite. All right, here we see, this is January 6th nonsense that was being fed over to Fannie and Wade, and these two are apparently going to be responding to this through their filings. They're going to explain themselves in Judge McAfee's courtroom, and we're going to be here, and we cannot wait to cover it, my friend. So thank you for subscribing. Thanks for sharing this channel, this show with a friend or family member. Don't forget to go over to robertgovea.com if you want to access any of the PDFs that we go through. If you want to access the mind map, you can go over there. You can also sign up for our daily newsletter at robertgovea.com. That way you don't miss anything. Just click this blue button, sign up for it. When you get that email that comes in, make sure you forward it to everyone you know. They'll be happy you did. All right, and now we've got one final segment on the day. And now we're talking about the Texas seizure of some land and a Supreme Court filing from a panicky Biden DHS. Texas seizes control over land to stop the flow, the invasion that's taking place across their border. And the Department of Homeland Security from the Biden administration submitted a panicky memo to the Supreme Court filled with an affidavit from Border Patrol saying, we're there, we can't access anything. Please, Supreme Court, help us so that we can continue on with the invasion. Now, we're going to read what the filing says, but here is what the report sounded like over from the mainstream media, reporting on the situation, saying, this is pretty bad. Charlie Kirk snabbed this one, says, now under Governor Abbott's emergency declaration, the National Guard has seized control of the property. This guy is on scene reporting.
Developing yesterday, Bill, and it's a rather remarkable situation. Behind me right now is Shelby Park, the park that you were referring to. Our viewers may recognize it. Our cameras have been here for about 2 years now, showing you the mass illegal immigration that happens right here in this park. You might recall even just a few weeks ago, there was that huge surge of migrants who crossed right here. Well, now under Governor Abbott's emergency declaration, the Texas National Guard has seized control of this park and some surrounding land along the river, put up fencing and razor wire, and kicked out federal Border Patrol agents, arguing that it's the Biden administration that has perpetuated illegal crossings. So Texas is going to control this land from here on out. Our crews have seen what appears to be Texas National Guard blocking Border Patrol agents from key areas of the operation here. And senior Border Patrol agents confirmed to Fox News that BP has pulled resources to avoid a confrontation.
Wow.
Now, it's not quite clear if this unprecedented move by Texas is really going to help or harm illegal migration here, because it appears that ultimately when migrants arrive to this park, Texas National Guard is still going to have to turn them over for processing to Border Patrol, essentially adding an extra step. Another added layer, the mayor of Eagle Pass says he was completely caught off guard by this move. He does not agree with his park being taken over and is looking into his legal options.
Wild. Okay, so there's a bunch of stuff happening.
This is not something that the city wanted, requested, asked for. He made it clear that this is the state and that they have the legal authority to do that. Of course, our legal team is looking into the actions taken by the states.
We will be here outside of the park over the next couple of days. We'll keep you updated on how the situation unfolds.
All right, good report from that gentleman. So you can see it is really heating up there. Like Texas is saying, get out of here, Border Patrol. You're done. We've got it taken care of. And somebody who's there regularly is Bill Melugin. And Bill Melugin was sharing this as he was reporting. He tells us the following. He says, the Texas Military Department confirms the Texas National Guard has seized control of Shelby Park and Eagle Pass, city property where mass illegal crossings are, is restricting Border Patrol agents from accessing the area, saying the feds, quote, perpetuate illegal crossings. So we're going to be here to turn them back. This is the area where Border Patrol has been cutting Texas razor wire. Razor wire and the fences are now deployed to block the area off from the public and the federal government. Get out of here. Attached is video from our crew on the ground this morning as they began blocking it off. You can expect the DOJ to sue Texas over this, and we already have an updated memo from Department of Homeland Security. Okay, they filed this puppy right away, and it includes an affidavit from somebody who's on the scene. So this is already at the Supreme Court. We're going to read it here in a short minute. But this is what Bill says. He says, this is the Texas military statement. He says the Texas National Guard has maintained its presence with security points and temporary barrier in Shelby Park since 2021. The current posture is to prepare for future illegal immigrant surges and to restrict access to organizations like the useless federal government that perpetuates illegal immigrant crossings in the park and the greater Eagle Pass area. Bill says, I reached out to Border Patrol in this sector for comment an hour ago. No updates on this one. And this was from late last night. Here is what he said. This is just what it sounds like. You can see this is the scene. as they're driving around. No audio on this, but it looks like you can see what is being stood up there. Lots of lights. Look at that whole backdrop, right? Lots of lights, lots of floodlights, just kind of illuminating everything. And so another good report there from Texas. Now, if you scroll down here, Bill says the Border Patrol Union confirms to me that its agents are being blocked by Texas soldiers. The union is praising Abbott for seizing control. Wow. So the Border Patrol Union says, nice job, Abbott, even though our people can't get admitted there. The BP union statement says, this is the Border Patrol Union, the official union of the Border Patrol. Look at this. Funded and administered by Border Patrol agents. They say, Governor Abbott is not harming Border Patrol operations. He is enhancing them. His seizing control of the Shelby Park allows our agents to deploy to troubled spots that experience high numbers of gotaways. Governor Abbott's actions should be seen as a force multiplier. Even the union is like, all right, good. Now we can go do our job here. The city of Eagle Pass also confirms that its mayor was notified by Texas DPS that Texas was taking control of the park, saying Abbott issued an emergency declaration, and here we go. Says our mayor, Rolando Salinas, was notified by Texas DPS that the state of Texas was taking control of Shelby Park. The decision was made as part of an emergency declaration by Governor Abbott. The city of Eagle Pass played no role in the decision, and currently our city is looking into this matter. So their city attorneys, probably facing onslaught here. And here Greg Abbott responded. He said, as caravans of migrants are moving through Mexico towards the U.S., we are making clear that Texas will be a tough place to cross. Dang! All right, so things are getting spicy down there at the border. And obviously, this is something that absolutely needs to be done. If the federal government is not going to deal with it, well, then the states have to do it. States are doing it. So amazing. Now, let's see what they submitted. In a panicky filing right after Texas seized control of the land in Eagle Pass, you see the Department of Homeland Security fired this one off into the Supreme Court. It's a supplemental memorandum about the emergency application to vacate the injunction. So we know that Texas has been battling with the feds over control of the border, and they're at the Supreme Court. And so now this is the U.S. government, Elizabeth Prelogar, counsel of record for the DOJ, submitting this on behalf of DHS because Texas is stopping the invasion and they want the invasion to resume. She filed this saying, the government respectfully files this supplement to address new activities by Texas National Guard that we just saw. They're in control. And Texas DPS since the government filed our last motion. Now, those activities have changed the situations, rendering our prior filings inaccurate. Now, the developments here described come from this guy, Robert Danley. He submitted an affidavit that we'll read. He actually works as a Border Patrol agent, the chief patrol agent for the Border Patrol. They say on December 19th, the Court of Appeals entered an injunction that stops the Border Patrol from damaging Texas's wire. Okay, so Texas is currently winning right now. The government can't continue to cut their wire in the vicinity of Eagle Pass unless it's necessary to address a medical emergency. So they said, look, the river, that says Border Patrol can go around the fence. So then once that upper level court, the Court of Appeals said Texas can continue to put their wire up, the government filed an emergency application to vacate the injunction. In other words, don't tell our agents, our Border Patrol agents, to stop cutting the wire. We should be able to cut the wire. Texas filed its reply and a couple other filings happened. Then the government filed its reply on January 10th. But hours later, Border Patrol, the feds, they learned as soon as the government responded that Texas National Guard members had begun erecting new concertina wire barriers. Just started filing those up. They added along to others along approximately a 2.5 mile stretch of the border in this case. Texas also erected new fencing located further inland than the original wire. And now that fencing further restricts Border Patrol's ability to even reach the river. Now, the relevant stretch includes the area of Shelby Park, new wires up, which contains a boat ramp from the Border Patrol, from which the Border Patrol routinely launches the boats. So they took over the park. The park has a little down, a ramp down into the river, the Rio Grande. Border Patrol was using that. Texas says not anymore. They fenced it all up. It also includes the staging area that Border Patrol has used to evaluate and to begin inspecting migrants that it apprehended along the border. So in other words, Border Patrol absconded with the park, right? It's a state park. They said, this is our new invasion staging area, and we're just going to, that's our boat ramp now. And this is where we inspect the migrants and so on, aka the illegal aliens. And a map of relevant stretch is attached to the declaration. Now, there's a full summary of this from the actual agent that we're going to get to. That's good. But let's see what they say. They say Border Patrol agents in a vehicle that were towing a boat to launch the boat ramp, they requested access to the park. They said, can we please launch our boat here to go pick up migrants and illegals and bring them in? But the Texas National Guard refused to permit them access to the area. Go find your own ramp to continue your invasion, punks. Now, Border Patrol agents likewise requested access to the staging area, and the National Guard refused. Get the heck out of here. Now, prior to the evening of January 10th, Border Patrol agents, they were able to drive their trucks with their surveillance equipment to various locations. Those trucks were used to maintain visibility and awareness. Why? So you can wave them in? But the Texas National Guard has now blocked Border Patrol's access to the area, rendering its agents unable to place mobile surveillance trucks. For what? You don't need to look at it. You sit there and watch them coming across. What do you need to watch them for? Border Patrol's ability to view this portion of the border is now limited to a narrow sliver from a single surveillance camera located outside of the newly fenced area. Good. Pull their cameras too, so that they can just, Texas has to take care. It's their border. Feds don't care. So as described in the attached declaration, the Border Patrol agent has informed this office, that this new wire from Texas and this new fencing, it's blocking access points, and it's effectively prohibiting Border Patrol agents from accessing or even getting near the border for 2.5 miles. Wow. Now, in its response to the emergency application, Texas has repeatedly contended that Border Patrol agents can access the border via boat or road without cutting the wire. Go around. But since the evening of January 10th, this is not the case. The boat ramp that Texas has blocked off is the only safe and operationally practical boat ramp with access to the relevant portion of the river. Photographs that they depict below show this. And Border Patrol's normal access is also blocked because the National Guard is installing its own gates, and Texas is placing its own armed personnel to control entry. And the Texas National Guard has likewise blocked Border Patrol from using the access road through its pre-existing state border barrier by stationing military Humvees there. And they've got photographs of all this we're going to look at. So a photograph depicting this military Humvee blocking our road is down below. Now, because Border Patrol can no longer access or view this border, Texas has effectively prevented Border Patrol from monitoring the border to determine whether a migrant requires emergency aid, and that the Court of Appeals has accepted from this injunction. We can't help them come across faster. So they're all needing emergency aid now, I'm sure. Now, Texas noted in its opposition, it never opposed the emergency exception, but now Texas says you can't even see it. Good luck. The Court of Appeals recognized that you can cut the wire in a case of emergency, like if someone's drowning or suffering heat exhaustion, which is going to be everybody, right, under that standard. We're tired, cut the fence. So here it says, yet without any availability to even view the border or migrants who may be crossing the river, it's like they're there with binoculars and like the airplane things. Come on in, migrants, come on in over here. We're Border Patrol. Come on in. We need to view it so we can wave them in. Or to be near the wire, saying the exception is meaningless if we can't see. So Texas's new actions since the government filed this block the Border Patrol ability to monitor or patrol or surveil the border. You don't need to, because you don't do anything with it other than wave the invasion in. Now, those actions have changed, and so we're filing this. The court should vacate the injunction. Let us get back to cutting the wire. Let us get back to restore the Border Patrol's access to the border, because we're responsible for this issue. Signed by Elizabeth Prelogar to the Supreme Court. Now, let's see what this agent said. This is the declaration of Robert Danley. I, Robert Danley, am a Border Patrol person. I am currently the lead field coordinator for Border Patrol. I was selected as so-and-so. I started my career in 2000 back in Texas. I've got a lot of qualifications. I got a silver medal for leadership. Great. Now, in my capacity, I am the chief Border Patrol agent. These are my responsibilities. I'm aware that Texas has blocked Border Patrol's access for 2.5 miles and the stretch of the Rio Grande. Happened at 8 p.m. Central Time on January 10th. And Texas has continued to deny access through the time I'm submitting this. Now, I'm submitting photos and a map to show you what's happened. Shelby Park is an area of city property that runs along the United States and Mexico. Flat, easily accessible, has a boat ramp. Until Wednesday evening, we used that boat ramp. The area of Shelby Park near the commercial port of entry has also been used. We use it as a staging area for migrants apprehended, whatever that means. You mean like relocated, welcomed in? The area is advantageous because it allows Border Patrol to triage apprehended migrants for medical and other needs, right? It's like a launch pad for them. So Texas just says, you're not doing this anymore. If you want to create your own little welcome party, caravan location, do it somewhere else. Now, at the same time, Border Patrol uses this area to complete mobile intake, biographic info, and other migrants apprehended so that they can be processed more directly. In mid-December, there were 6,000 migrants in this area, and they all just bust them inside. Now, beginning at 8 p.m., Border Patrol was denied access. And man, I would have loved to have seen that conversation. Hey, we're just going to come in here and pick up some more migrants. Sorry, sir. I can't let you through. Texas established fencing and concertina wire blocking access to Shelby Park. In combination, there is a combination of armed National Guard personnel and equipment. There's fencing, there's concertina wire blocking Border Patrol from 2.5 miles of the border. They say on January 11th, a DOD active duty military service member who was deployed to provide logistical support to Border Patrol, he was denied access to area underneath the port of entry. He wanted to refuel the Border Patrol's generators staged under the port of entry. They said, no, get out of here. In addition, on January 11th, Texas DPS turned over 11 migrants to the Border Patrol agents who were performing equipment security. A National Guard major walked up to the agents and Texas DPS personnel and informed them, they said, Texas National Guard would no longer allow anyone, to include Texas DPS, to drop off or turn over subjects at that location. Not happening anymore. The Texas TNG major further informed the Border Patrol agents that the National Guard would not allow any transport units to pick up subjects under the port of entry. You're not getting them there either. And that agents, you have to walk the migrants to Loop 480 and then process them outside of Shelby Park. They say the Loop 480 is a two-way industrial highway. There's no space to safely intake migrants. That's the point. That's the point. There is no welcome caravan party anymore. Additionally, so they can go back. On January 11th, Border Patrol agents in a vehicle towing a boat, they said, can we come up your boat ramp to in Shelby Park? They said, no, it's been blocked. Get out of here. Within 2.5 miles, there are multiple entry points, all blocked by the great state of Texas. TNG has deployed armed soldiers and vehicles to block Border Patrol agents from access to the river and entry points, which is sometimes referred to as the border wall. Now, when standing at the border barrier, agents are unable to see the river. Historically, we were able to access the river via gates. But in addition here, there's a bunch of photographs that we'll look at. Here's another one. I spoke with Texas DPS, says this guy. He advised me it is the position of the state of Texas that the National Guard, that it will not allow Border Patrol or DOD personnel who support Border Patrol into the 2.5-mile stretch near Shelby Park. Not in any operational capacity. You're banned. Telling the DOD that. No DOD nor Border Patrol. Get out of here. We've got armed people to say so. I was further advised that Texas does not want Border Patrol to be able to arrest, process, or transport migrants out of the identified area. They're done. So they say, here's the boat ramp. Okay, currently it's blocked. It's one of 3 within the Eagle Pass area. However, for practicality reasons, this is the one that we use. Now, north of there, there's the Gonzales boat ramp, but that's on private property, and it's also difficult to access. There's also increased risks associated with water in this area. That's the point. Make the border difficult to cross, and people won't cross it. Law enforcement personnel and migrants have drowned in that area, which is unfortunate. I don't want anybody to drown. But don't try to cross a river illegally into a country that's not yours. Approximately 6.9 miles south, there's another boat ramp, but that's private too. It's like, we don't have enough welcome boat ramps. They want more water depth and obstacles in the water. It's great, man. So like this is a nice little welcome panel here in Shelby Park, and Texas says you're done. So if they go north, they don't have anything. If they go south, they don't have anything. So therefore, Texas's action of depriving Border Patrol means we have no practical means to respond to migrants who may be in distress. Well, maybe the Mexico side maybe they can provide some help to their people or to the people who are crossing from their border. Maybe they can provide some aid. Now, because of Texas's actions, Border Patrol has substantially reduced the visibility visibility. Prior, we had 5 to 7 mobile video surveillance trucks. Now we don't have any. They have denied access to all of them. All told, I estimate that current operational visibility has been reduced by 90%. Oh man, this is just so good. They can't see anything. Good. Mobile video surveillance is important because it identifies where we need to put agents to bring people into the country. If a large group is spotted attempting, then we make strategic decisions about how to get them in. In mid-December, there were 6,000 migrants in the waiting area. And these other areas are very easy to manage. And without access to this staging area, we have to go along this busy road, a busy 2-lane highway that has commercial traffic. And it's very busy. Suboptimal conditions for managing any large group of migrants in such a small space, which is just, it's very easy. Just send them back. Send them the other direction. You can't come through Eagle Pass anymore. It's dangerous up there. You might drown. It's dangerous over there. You might drown. Go figure it out somewhere else. You can see here are the exhibits. This is what the Border Patrol guy is saying is blocked. This is a lot. So Texas wasn't playing around. They just went all the way from this whole yellow line all the way up. All now seized. Feds, no more access for you. That's a lot. There's Eagle Pass, the international bridge, all the way up. And so if you go up north, it's bad. If you go down south here, it's bad. So better go this way. That's the only direction to go. Go back this way. Here's a safe location. Casa del Migrante. That sounds great. Post up over there. See if they can help with your situation. Here's Exhibit B. Here's what some other scenes look like. So Border Patrol agents are like, just going to go bring in a few thousand more illegal aliens into our country. And let's just go drop our boat off right in here. And guess what? It's blocked. Get out of here. You see, there's a Humvee located back there, fencing up. Border Patrol not allowed. This is a photograph taken on January 10th that shows added gates, military Humvees, wire, and barriers that the Texas National Guard erected, blocking a gap that would otherwise allow access. Blocked! Here's another one. I'm just a useless... Well, I think we have some good Border Patrol agents, but some of the other ones are useless because they're enabling this garbage. They're saying here, let's go in. Texas says, get out of here. Go complain to Mayorkas about this. Blocked. Photograph taken on January 10th. Here's another one. Some serious wire being posted up. This photograph shows several Texas National Guard personnel placing additional wire and mesh fencing near Border Patrol Port of Entry number 2. Here's another one. And yeah, these look like you could probably, knock them down pretty easily, but it's a good start. Here's another photograph. So if we go blows with Mayorkas, here's another one, another gap, and another one, same photo. Here's the same photo, just copied and pasted multiple times. Here's Exhibit C. Look at that on the wall. You're not driving your stuff through. Get out of here. Right there. Blocked. Aerial photograph blocking an access point in the state-owned border barrier along Loop 480. This access point would otherwise allow Border Patrol to reach the river. Not in Texas. Sorry. So this is just absolutely outstanding. I'd say it's absolutely needed. Texas has been bearing the brunt of a lot of this. They bust them out, they get blamed. And the problem is being exacerbated by our useless, incompetent federal government. And so Texas is now responding, and Joe Biden and the DHS, they want more of this to happen. They're more interested in this problem continuing than they are solving it. So Texas, with no alternative, takes matters into their own hands and boots them the heck out. We're going to be continuing to cover this and more malfeasance from our useless federal government. Thank you for subscribing and joining us as we do. Wherever you're watching this, thanks for hitting that subscribe button, that follow button. We'll be here every day of this week, next week, at the same time, covering this madness, and we appreciate you joining us as we do. Thanks for going over to robertgovea.com. Link is down in the description below. You can access all of the PDFs. So if you want to read this PDF, get the red lines, it's there at robertgovea.com. And we'll look forward to seeing you back here on the next one. All right, my friends. Well, that is it for us on the day. We covered some good ground, man. Texas is Texaning it up, and I love that. We got good stuff from Fani-Wade. They're under congressional investigation, and things are spicing up there. And Donald Trump gets support from Vivek Ramaswamy, who submits his amicus brief in the United States Supreme Court. And so now, my friends, it is time to hear from you. Let's see what you have to say about this. Of course, we're going to go over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com as soon as we're done. For our members only after party, we do shows in the morning. We already had a beautiful stream this morning talking about, what did we talk about? Oh, the Red Sea, yeah, and the new war in Yemen that's brewing. We also have Saturday streams. So if you want to join us tomorrow for our members only Saturday show, watchingthewatchers.locals.com is the place to go for that. But who is joining us? And my friends, thank you for the amazing support. Couldn't do this work without you. So thanks for sending this stuff in. Mexican Marauder is here. Says, having Vivek show up at trial makes me happy. Also, stokes my belief that he's going to be Trump's running mate. I thought the thumbnail looked pretty good. I thought it was a nice look. Hey, this one from Glocky McGlockface says, I don't know what's going to happen in 2024, but I do know is that at this moment in time, through illegal immigration and the policies coming out of DC, the Democrats are literally trying to erase America. And you probably have seen this one. End Wokeness said that they are nuking the American imagery from the passports. Definitely don't want that American flag or that bald eagle up there. That's a little too patriotic and insurrectionary. Glocky says, I know Chicago is experiencing inclement weather, but seriously, why hide? Chicago is shutting down and moving their hotel shuttle pickup area so that they can house illegals, is what that says. Thank you, Glocky, for that. Well, they don't want people to know. I think if people really knew the extent of the numbers, people would be outraged. And so it's in their communities. They're trying to hide it from their communities because their communities would be outraged. Chubby says, 4 indictments against Trump and now all now have direct ties to the White House. Yet there's still those denying it's a political persecution. Mind-boggling, poppycocked hogwash from Chubby in the House. Good to see you, Chubby. I think it's absolutely undeniable. And the evidence just keeps getting bigger and bigger. It keeps mounting. We get more and more of it. Spud says, Nikki and Ron, a.k.a. Nancy and Sluggo. That would be their team, Nancy and Sluggo. Oh, gosh. We got Eddie Van Zant. This is Eddie from Texas. Says, stand down. As usual, we got it handled ourselves. We are securing our borders. What are you doing with your life, Rob? I don't know. I guess, Eddie, just admiring you guys in Texas securing your border. We're living vicariously through you over there, us Arizona people. What's up, George? Says Trump Vivek 100%. I honestly don't know why he's not larger in the polls. Shenanigans. Probably. What's up, George? I like Vivek. I think Vivek is speaking good truth. And I know there's some concerns about him. But honestly, once you start saying certain things, I think if the things you say are so truthful, they might disqualify you from those other entities that you're concerned he's a part of. You know what I mean? Like some people are like, I'm concerned that he's a Soros shill or something like that. I'm like, well, he's been pretty much blasting them like from a point of no return. Like you don't mend fences after some of that stuff is what I'm saying. So it makes me feel like there's some more credibility to him, but who knows? We got Dean. Welcome, Dean. Dean P is our newest shout out member over on the YouTubes. Thank you for that one. Welcome aboard, Dean. We got one from Glocky. Says, the reason Benghazi was covered up, Obama let his Secretary of State Hillary run an illegal war. She's not in the chain of command. Benghazi was a major waypoint for shipping weapons to ISIS, who Obama would overthrow. Overthrow Assad, give a black eye to Putin, and Holder said it was legal, hence the privilege Obama cited in order for Holder to defy subpoenas from the House, from Glocky. Jane says, Rob, how does Whoopi Goldberg get away with saying Donald Trump is going to eliminate his opposition if elected? To me, that's defamation to the nth degree. Am I wrong? The question is, are you going to win a defamation claim? You know, defamation is an amorphous concept, you know, and it depends on who's litigating the claim. So where are you going to file the claim? And Trump is a public person, so you'd have to go back and prove actual malice. And so it's a high standard. You know, Trump just sued the New York Times and lost, right? And he has to pay damages to them. So it's Trump. I don't think it's necessarily going to go anywhere, even if it might actually be defamatory. That's kind of the problem. Good question, Jane. Here's this one from Glocky. Says it's literally Trump and his supporters against the world, literally. A top banker called Christine warns that Trump is clearly a threat to Europe. Trump's a threat to everybody, right? The whole world's going to explode immediately as soon as he's elected. Cowboy Rob says, what a lush. Nancy should be ashamed of herself. Was she hammered on that segment, on that video? It's hard to tell. I don't know why she has 2 eyelids, though. Spud says lizards have 2 sets of eyelids. I think she can lick her eyes with her tongue. Well, maybe, I don't know. Crash says, Rob, those are from a misguided eyebrow pencil. She was probably, as is her wont, just hammered. Is that true? She's like, here's my eyebrows. Like, what were those? They're not shadows, were they? Like, I know we all have shadows. Well, like, they were like, I don't know what was going on. Like, her eyebrows were like up here, and then they like drew an eyebrow right here. It was very strange. Maybe it's all the facelifts. Nancy, like if my face was like this, then I could draw, an eyebrow in there. Anyways, I don't know what's going on over there in Congress. We've got this one from Don't Be Hatin'. Says, I just want to say I don't know what I would do without this outlet. Hey, man, thanks. Me neither, man. I'll tell you, me neither, brother. Thanks, Rob and chat. You're changing my life for the better. Likewise, Don't Be Hatin'. That's what we're trying to accomplish here. Yes, iron sharpens iron. Iron sharpens iron, right? We all get stronger. We all go through this. We learn something. We have some fun. We build a community. We elevate our skill sets. We increase our critical thinking. Love it. Don't be hating. Great comment. Good to see you. Hey, Dolphin fan is the man, bringing in some new membos. What's up, Dolphin fan? Look who's coming in. Thank you for doing this. Janine S., Kevin G., James Pepper coming in. Nova's here, and Rye B. All coming in courtesy of Dolphin fan is the man. Have a great weekend, Dolphin. Thanks for the membos. We got 1R5 says, it's hard to believe, this is over on Rumble. 1R5, thanks for being a membo, my man. Says, hard to believe the Georgia public would put up with this. I'm thinking torches and pitchforks for Big Fanny and friends. I don't know. I don't know what Georgia's up to. You know, like she's prosecuting Trump. Maybe it's the same situation as Tishy Lay Tish. But you would imagine that, yeah, I mean, the Fulton County voters would be feeling like they got fleeced for paying $1 million for their vacations and their cruises. Not ideal. Ryan Patrick's in the house. What's up, Ryan? Thanks for stopping by, my man. And thanks for saying smash that like button. Good advice from Ryan Patrick, who's also on YouTube. Good to see you, Ryan. Have a beautiful weekend. We got Pinochet, Helicopter Tours, says, is Georgia an open carry state? Carrying a handgun like a purse could easily be misconstrued as brandishing. I see a red flag complaint contender. Totally. Yeah, totally. So, I mean, I'm sure Georgia is, I think it is an open carry. I think we saw that in the article. They're not saying he was doing anything wrong, but sounded like he might have been trying to insurrect the journalist, you know, with a little bit of a threat there. I see where you're going, Pinochet. Patrick Parker, what's up? 15 months as a membo. Happy anniversary, Patrick. Thank you for being here. 15 months, that's a lot. I've seen a lot change in 15 months. And Patrick, thanks for always being here, always saying what's up, always being a good membo. Grateful to have you here, a part of our community. We've got Glocky McGlockface says, oh, this is interesting. Says, part of me wants to feel bad, but then I remember this is Mitt Romney's home state, and the people of Massachusetts voted for this. The Massachusetts governor, Maura, is cutting off firefighter funds and instead offering college financial aid to illegal aliens. Oh, financial aid to illegal aliens. Well, I hope they enjoy their education as their entire city burns to the ground around them. Jason Jackson says, I still can't access the mind map. I'll DM you on X. Sounds good, Jason. I'll send you the link. We got this one from Pinochet, and thanks for the dono. Says, shame that Jenna Ellis prostrated herself to these two. It is a shame. It is a shame. Yeah, I don't agree with how that case was handled, but what can you do? Good to see you, Pinochet. Chubby says, I'm sure it'll come to light that Wade spent that 24 hours consoling Kinzinger, just sitting there, letting him cry on his shoulder. It was a humanitarian project. Yeah, he's like, here you go, little Kinzinger. Here. Calm down, sir. And then, well, we'll leave that there. That could have gotten really weird real fast, so we're just not going to do that. This one from PK from AK says, Biden aided and abetted our enemies by giving Afghanistan over $80 billion worth of weapons to be used against us, which they are. Right, didn't they show up? Well, I think some of those Afghan weapons, did they show up in Ukraine? I think they showed up in Ukraine and Israel, right? Yeah, so they're being $80 billion. I'll never forget that one. We did a show here and somebody said, no, Rob, it's 80 million. Remember that super chat? Someone said, Rob, it's 80 million. And I said, no, it's 80 billion. And like, I could feel the head burst on the other side of the screen because that's a lot of money. Holy moly. We got Glocky says, they could never get Capone for the murders, but they got him for money crimes, right? Tax stuff. And the fact these people are the best the DA has to offer is a testament to the education and the judicial system in America. They didn't even try to hide their crimes. They literally left a paper trail of money for anyone to follow. And it's true, they did. He billed it. He put it in his bill. It's just amazing. Okay, Glocky has this one. This is from the Rittenhouse case. LOL, why did this remind me of Fanny? Okay, from Kyle. From Kyle Rittenhouse. And this was one of the more obnoxious prosecutors we've ever listened to here. Okay, one more hypothetical question, he says. Is it normal if my wife has a boyfriend? Here's Kyle. Here's Kyle Rittenhouse. That's a good WTF face if I ever saw one. Is it normal if my wife has a boyfriend? I object to the question, says Kyle. Binger. It's Bingy Binger. That's who that was. I forgot about Binger. Oh, the worst. Here, CF Rob says the 24-hour billing was probably a 24-hour bedroom ex-party conference, an ex-parte conference at Fanny's house. Oh, gosh. When they're indicting each other's, genitals or something. Oh, gross. STFU says, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't a lawyer overbilling a client punishable by 6 months and $5,000 per offense? Feels like Georgia's big Fanny is exposed. Her Fanny is exposed. Man, it's out there, flopping in the wind. So she's, I don't know what the actual law is in Georgia, but our friend Technofog on X at Technofog, with an underscore in between the words, says that, yeah, there is a Georgia offense about creating, a fictitious billing record, stuff like that. So maybe they're in hot water. We got, hey, what's up? We got BH Williams says, so the feds seized the property without due process, like eminent domain, or a vote of the state legislature for government operations, and the state just took it back. Pound sand. Feds buy. Right. And they were using it as like their little launch pad. Well, we're very comfortable here. This is very convenient for us to welcome all the illegal aliens into our country. It's very convenient. Not anymore. Thank you, BH Williams. Hey, Voice of the People says Biden just filed a motion to the Supreme Court to remove the Texas National Guard from the border. Been saying it. This is treason from Voice of the People. Is that a different one than the one that we just read, Voice? I'll have to take a look if there was another one. But it is literally, Texas is trying to secure their border. The federal government is fighting Texas to secure their border. And it's not just Texas's border. It is the national border. So when they are fighting against that, it does feel like they're working against American interests. Cowboy Rob is here, says Texas should just kick all Border Patrol out of the state. Maybe that'll happen. Yeah, we'll just secure the whole thing. Good luck. This one from Mark Butcher says there are no blue states, just blue cities. And they love that. And maybe a lot of these immigrants will go to these cities. They'll get more votes because they'll register regardless and vote anyways. And maybe that's part of the equation as well. Wendy says, we thought the same thing about Pence. Be wary and keep your eyes and ears open. Trust Trump, from Wendy. We were all skeptical about Pence too. Well, kind of Pence turned out to be a little skeptical, didn't he? Zulu, what's up? A membo for 23 months. So first of all, that's 1 month away for 2 years, Zulu. Thanks for being a membo for 2 years. And that's 2.555 repeating babies. And what does that do when you convert that to physical beings? It's like an eternal 55% of a human. Anyways, Zulu, thanks for being a member, my man. Thanks for modding down the fort for us and for being here for so long, navigating all this madness together with us. Glad to have you. We got Pinochet says, I don't take Holocaust denier Whoopi very seriously. Well, I don't think you're alone in that. A lot of people don't, because she's not very competent. Pinochet says, as a Massachusetts resident, I called the governor's office and asked if I could recruit some migrants for a private army of assassins. No return call. Well, that's pretty rude. What is your governor's office even doing if they're not answering that question for you? Vientikis says, this is the best illegal alien we've ever had, ever. He learned English and then went home. That's from our friend Vientikis, modding down the fort for us. This old guy says, Wade billed 65 days more than there are business days in a year. He only took 20 weekends off all year. When did he find time for those vacations with Fanny? Maybe he was billing. Maybe he was billing while he was on vacation, right? He's like, hey, you want to go out for steaks tonight? She's like, and she's like, yeah, but only someplace nice. And he's like, oh, great. She wants like a 5-star. So he's like, hold on, let me do some billing real fast. Read some emails, read a PDF file, 6 hours. There, perfect. Send it over to her. He's like, okay, perfect, honey. I'm going to send you a bill. She's like, okay, great. Sends it over. Oh, wow. Great legal work. Approved. Let's go out. Yeah. But that's good analysis. I would also like to see how that lined up with like a normal routine. And he had other casework, right? So, he was also doing other legal work, I would imagine. I would imagine it's not his only situation. Maybe it was. But he has a law firm. He's probably taking other clients. So is he billing in 1 month more than there are actual hours? Probably. This old guy, good to see you. Senior Chief, good to see you. Says, instead of defunding the FBI from the top, maybe red states should pull a Texas and just tell the FBI they no longer have authorization to operate in the state. Another great idea. I think Missouri did something like this with the ATF. They said, ATF agents, if you want to come into our state and enforce your illegal gun requirements, you're not, and I think they passed a bill that was like going to fine them if they enforced. So there's a big fissure brewing between the feds and the states. Mini Wheat is over on Local, says, hey, Rob, it's my first week as a membo in utero. Amazing. Ha, ha, ha. I absolutely love Watching the Watchers, fam, and all that you do. You're amazing. And this community has really enlightened my day-to-day. Watching the Watchers community rocks. Man, thank you for saying that, Mini Wheat. I couldn't agree with you more. We really have a lot of fun in our member streams. And we try to deliver for our members. We do morning streams, Saturday streams. And they're hilarious. They're funny. We got memes. We got amazing people like Mini Wheat. Everybody's so welcoming and fun. That's a lot of fun. So come and check it out. And Mini Wheat, we're glad to have you. Glad your first week was very fun. And I appreciate you jumping in. Sometimes it's hard to jump into a new chat or into a new community, but you jumped right in. And I'm glad you did. I'm glad you're having fun. We're enjoying having you. We got Alberto, 3 months as a membo. Says, is Fulton County going after Trump like MLK Jr.? I don't know. Speaking about MLK Jr., isn't that on Monday? I think we got a holiday on Monday. So, I don't know what they're doing. But maybe that's a good analogy. Nice to see you, Alberto. Thanks for being a membo for 3 months. Lady Ice, what's up, Lady Ice? Says, Rob, been a member since May 2021. That is a long time ago. Too many babies. Love that, Lady Ice. Says, so as good as it is to see, this action taken by Texas worries me a little bit. Seems kind of like the build up to a civil war. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? In the movie, they're putting out to pre-program the country. And that crazy election ad with Trump as dictator. Well, what are the states supposed to do against a dictatorial government? What are we supposed to do? I agree completely. There is a lot of parallels to 1860 and the Civil War. It is a little scary and concerning, but this is the Democrats doing just like they did back then. Mark B, 2.5 kids equals 2 kids and a dog or a cat. I should have known that. Yeah, that makes sense. Even if it's repeating, what does that mean? Like the cat is in multiple dimensions? Like in the Matrix? Good to see you, Mark. Thanks for being a membo for a month. First month's the hardest. Stick around. Sean Tonneson says, Governor Kemp or Secretary of State will do nothing to Willis or Wade. The governor and the secretary are part of the problem there in Georgia. And so, my friends, thank you for sending all of those in. Very generous today. Very grateful for those. Couldn't do any of this work without you and your support, your viewership, and your amazing generosity. Let's see what's happening over on the X platform before we wrap it up and go over to our members only after party to say hello over there. We got 26 viewers in the house, my friends. Woo, we love those double digits. Let's see who is here. Oh, this is Vienticus. Oh my gosh. Nancy Pelosi doesn't just have 2 sets of eyebrows. She's got 16 eyebrows. From Vienticus. 1, 2, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24 eyebrows. That's a lot of eyebrows, V. Wow. I thought the 2 were bad. We got James is here. We've got some good, we've got a lot of comments on here. So let's fly through these. Cohen says, I'm just going to throw this out there. Says that if Pelosi, only her, is not worried about the election, then it is going to be rigged again. Remember, she ripped up a copy of Trump's speech? I certainly do. What's up, JB? Good to see you in the house. We got Retired Dave says, I find that people who do not understand presidential immunity or how it works react in complete shock when I explain diplomatic immunity to them. Good point. Yeah, we haven't even talked about that. The president is above the law unless convicted after impeachment. Love it, Dave. Love it. TJ says, when Texas was annexed by consent of an existing republic, the single issue motivating Texas was border security. It's a contract. Love that too. Yeah. Goofy for Jesus says, Texas rules. Bless the government's heart. JB says, Alina Abba. We didn't get the Alina Abba today. We got Pink Husky, Howler Dude. We got Tam recommending this, says go through this thread. We know that Reid Hoffman gave a bunch of money to Nikki Haley from Vientica sharing that one. And we got a Nikki Haley Trojan horse comment. What's up, Danny McWilliams? Talking about freedom of the press. Nowhere in there does it say you can make money saying it about freedom of the press. Okay, so great comments, my friends. Thanks for following us over on X. We are wrapping it up so we can have a little time for our after party there. But before we go over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for the after party, let's say thanks to our mods and our meme smiths who mod down the fort for us and keep things nice and orderly on the show and all week long. Our friend Vienticus Prime, K Bean in the house. We got Just Cause, Playing Hooky, Ronnie Cole, Zulu in the house, Beyond Geo, our friend Zach Nichols and John Allen here, Janek, Dog Digger, and Donut Mind Me, modding down the forts for us. Our meme smiths, Sleepy Dog Lee, Geegum Geegum, and Nathan, N810 in the house. But that, my friends, is it for us on the day and on the week. And it was a busy week. And I think we're just warming up. Things are getting back in session. Congress has some activity. We know that the courts are back in session after the holiday break. We're seeing filings. We're seeing motions. And I think it's going to be busier from here. And so this weekend, we're going to unplug from politics a little bit, get outside, spend some time with our family, our friends, the people that we love, get some of that vitamin D, some nice fresh air so that we can recharge our batteries, rejuvenate ourselves, and come back re-energized, because when we're here on Monday, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends, and an amazing weekend. Sleep very well. We'll see you right back here on Monday. Bye-bye.